Never thought a taxi driver from Fiji would be sitting next to the Queen.
The legal personality that I'm interviewing today is one of the most cheerful and generous-spirited person that I've ever met. He has been rightfully described as a ray of sunshine. Born on the island of Fiji in the South Pacific, he started his career as a taxi driver on the island. He came to England in 1964 to read law and was called to the bar, the Middle Temple, in 1969. He moved to Wales in 1968, where he has lived ever since. Now retired from the bench, he was the first ethnic minority judge on the Welsh circuit when appointed a deputy district judge in 1992. In 1997, he became the resident district judge of the Merthyr combined law courts on the Welsh circuit. A commissioner at the Commission for Racial Equality between 1996 and 2002, he has held numerous positions in professional and public bodies as well as community groups. That includes the current chair of the Race Council Cymru, part-time chair of the Child Support Appeals Tribunal, independent chair of the Complaints Panel for the Welsh Government, a member of the Welsh Advisory Committee on Drug and Alcohol Misuse Act, as well as the National Assembly Advisory Group, Family Court Service Committee and the South and South Wales Criminal Justice Liaison Committee membership. Between 2000 and 2003, he chaired the formal investigation into Her Majesty's Prison Service, which resulted in the reports on the murder of the teenager Zaid Mubarak and the report of racial equality in prison in 2002 and 2003 respectively. He was also the chair of the Stephen Lawrence Inquiry Commission set up by the Birmingham City Council about the challenges for the future of Birmingham following the Macpherson report. He was made a commander of the British Empire CBE in 2001 and remained committed to race relations in Wales and beyond. The legal personality that I'm interviewing today is Ray Singh. Ray, welcome to the BLD Interviews.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. Ray, I'm just going to ask you something that preyed on my mind a little bit. You've lived in England and Wales, in fact you've lived in the UK, shall I say, longer than anywhere else.
Yes.
You've lived in Wales much, much longer than anywhere else.
Yeah.
So how do you feel in your heart, deep in your heart, do you feel more British, Fijian, Welsh?
I've always felt that I was British because I came from Fiji as a British citizen.
Of course.
Having left Fiji now for over 45 years, you lost contact with friends and grassroots people. Family moved away from Fiji, immediate family. I have all the friends and family in Wales. And when I stand in Millennium Stadium, the heart is pumping for Wales. And so I very much feel I'm a Welshman.
You feel deep in your heart more Welsh
Yes.
than anything else.
Yes.
With a mixture of being a Brit and a Fijian.
Well, it's a huge mixture of Anglo, Welsh, Fijian. Yes.
Worldwide man,
Yes.
that's what you are.
Yeah.
Okay. I know that you were born in Suva, capital of Fiji.
Yeah.
And what was your first proper job?
My first proper job was a trainee treasury officer in the civil service. That was after doing part-time job as a taxi driver because I couldn't get any jobs.
So really, so your first proper job is a civil servant?
Civil service,
But
that was a full-time,
full-time.
but it's part-time.
At the same time? Oh, before.
So and it carried on afterwards as a
okay.
taxi driver.
Okay, so you really, your first job was a taxi driver?
Taxi driver.
Right. Did you enjoy that?
I thoroughly enjoyed it.
What was fun about it?
It really is to meet different people, understand how their lives are. It's through driving taxis that I met a lady called Mrs. Boyce, who was the head of the civil service. And she said, taking her home on Saturday morning, and she said, driver, you speak good English. Have you been to school? I said, yes, Mum. Will you have any qualification? I said, yes, I achieved a senior Cambridge certificate. Why haven't you applied for a job in civil service? I said, Mum, I did. What's your name again? She took my name down. This was a Saturday. On Monday, we had a telephone call for interview.
So that's how you got the civil servant job full time.
Having been rejected previously.
Right.
Yes.
Okay. So it was good you started off
As a taxi driver.
driver. So what made you then decide to leave Fiji and come to
I'd reached
the
a
UK?
cul-de-sac. I became senior executive officer salaries, dealing with all the teachers' salaries. I was very proud, and when the director would come and say to my senior person, well done, once again, he never turned around and said to me, well done.
Really?
And I knew that he wasn't promoting me at all.
He didn't see you as someone who's going to go further up,
No,
basically.
no.
Is that what made you come to England?
I decided that I would then move on. I could have gone to New Zealand, which they would have accepted, but I felt this link between the Commonwealth golden thread link between Fiji and UK, because we really believed that we were the second cousins.
As you said, you hold a British passport already.
Yes, and I had met few lawyers from here who had qualified here and gone back to
So basically, by the time you decided to come to England, you already decided you wanted to be a lawyer.
Yes.
Right, okay. And then you came here,
Yeah.
and then you decided to do the bar. Yes.
I applied to do a BA first because I thought I'll do a degree and I'll do BA with law combined. And I was accepted in Exeter University. When I arrived in London, I had a friend who was here and met me, and he said, why do you want to go in jungle? You just come from one jungle to another.
In Exeter?
Exeter.
Wow, okay.
Yeah, to in his eyes, it
it's
was
outside London,
yes.
right, okay.
And so he and I went to Middle Temple. He said, can I apply to join the inn? And the lady said, yes, of course. What A levels have you got? I said, the senior Cambridge certificate. If you had applied from Fiji, you would have been acceptable, but not from here. So I said, what do you want? We need 2 A levels.
Okay.
So I had to then do,
The A levels.
I did 3 A levels, and I was told when I went to University Tutorial College in Great Russell Street, opposite TUC, and I asked them if I could do 2 or 3 A levels. They said, yes, a 2-year course. I said, no, I haven't got time. I need to do it by next academic year.
Expedite the A level course.
Well, it's your money. I said, yes, I'm paying. So I did 3 A levels, 3 different boards, and I passed with collectively with all of them.
Great, fantastic.
Yeah.
So, what was it like coming? I mean, you've come from an island, to another island, and what was it like being here? What was it like for ethnic minorities? I know in those days there was no word like ethnic minorities. If you're not white, you're black. So hence why we'd say black lawyers directory, for example,
Yes,
because in those days, any visible ethnic minority is a black person.
Yes.
So what was it like for you in those days as a black person?
It was awful, really, really awful. Day in, day out, my friend and I would go out looking for accommodation. He had relatives in Southall, so they put us up for the time being. And I said, and it's a long way to come to a college in Tottenham Court Road. And we would go in, unless the notice is already there, and we wouldn't go in. No dogs, no blacks, no Irish. So it was, we walked and walked and
to find somewhere.
Find somewhere. And it was just impossible. Until eventually we were walking off Southampton Road and went into Bedford Place's International Alliance Club, Christian Alliance Club, so Students Alliance Club. So I went in and said, excuse me, and the bloke sitting there didn't even look up. He must have seen us walking in. He said, "We got too many Indians." So Chris, my friend, said, "Come on now, let's go. I'm tired." I said, "No, it's very interesting." He said, "We've got too many Indians." And he says, "International hostel." So I went back and said, "How many Fijians have you got, sir?" And he looked up. "You from Fiji?" I said, "Yes, sir. Mr. Chatur Singh has recommended this place." "Sit down. I've got only one room."
Right.
I
Okay.
said, "No, we need
There
to
are two
have
of
two."
you.
I said, "Is there a possibility one of us will sleep on the floor?" He said, "Well, I can put a bunk bed." I said, "That would be fine."
Perfect.
So that's how we got
So
in
basically, you shared a room because you were from Fiji, basically, not from India.
there. That's right.
Funny
So
guy.
yes, that was the basis of.
Very different experience,
yes.
obviously,
Yes.
for you. So we're grateful that you've had to go through all that to make the path for us today, really. Given what you now know, I mean, you have so much experience and, you've gone through so much yourself. What key advice, career advice, would you give to budding professionals now? Would you give to them?
Yes, I believe, and I'm sure it's been said by others as well, that you must have, strongest advice I would give is to have esteem in yourself. Believing that you deserve it, believing that you can do it. And that is so important. Believe in yourself.
Great advice. I'm just going to move a bit to Wales now, given that you feel very Welsh on the inside, and that is fantastic. And you've had various roles really in Wales for over 40 years.
Yes.
Is that correct?
Yes.
And you appear to be, just reading about you generally, you appear to be the go-to person in Wales when it comes to issue of race. I mean, really, people seek your views and they seek your advice on the issue of race. I know your own council, the Race Council for Cymru, commissioned an independent report
Yes.
into race
Yes.
in Wales. And the conclusion of this research was that racism remains a significant issue in Wales.
Yes.
What are your thoughts on this?
I have always believed that things have been brushed under the carpet. There are some genuine people who are not racist, but then there's another group who in fact can't believe anyone else will discriminate because they, and then there's this next group who said, "Well, it's not really my business. I know it's not right, but I'm not going to get involved." And then you got the bigoted racists. And this research, and I was very anxious that we do have a race at the forefront, because with the changes by the government and the CRE's demise, it's all brought together. Disability, gender are at the forefront. By all means, they must remain there. But as a result, race has been put right at the bottom of the heap. And and you could see that wasn't the prime factor which government, local government, national government were focusing at all. And hence a group of us have formed what is equivalent of CRE in Wales, Race Council Cymru, where we got a small grant and we carried out this research, which the researcher, Professor, I forget her name for a moment, she said, "We're scraping the surface. We need to go further." And yet, the police, we invited them to discuss these matters. They said yes, but they haven't come back. Welsh government have taken up some
of the recommendations.
yes,
Oh, good.
but the police have not. Who are the forefront of racism.
So, but I'm sure, knowing who you are, you're not going to give up.
Oh no,
Yeah.
no, we will.
Well, thank you for your thoughts on that, because
Yeah.
I thought I should raise that with
Yeah.
you. I'm now just going to go back to your career points. What would you consider to be your career high point? Professional high point for you?
Well, to be appointed, elected to be the junior of Wales and Chester second, I was promoting everyone else in my chambers, a local bar, for judicial posts and so forth, and nobody mentioned me. However, when I achieved that, to become a judge, that I thought was equally high point. But the greatest satisfaction I had, although I have never craved for anything, but I thought it was equivalent of knighthood when the Queen invited me for lunch with the 9 other people, and I sat next to her.
Oh right. When was this?
It was 2001 or 2, and spent about 3 hours with her talking, and she remembered her trip to Fiji. And it was really, never thought a taxi driver from Fiji would be sitting next to the Queen and talking about Fiji.
That's amazing, isn't it? Yeah, fantastic. Great story. That's what I love about you. You've got some amazing stories like that. Great. Talking about your passion or what you're happiest doing, what would you say you're most passionate or happiest about?
I'm very passionate about children having meaningful relationship with the absent parents. I see youngsters brought up without fathers, without head, and I worked as a judge, as a barrister, as a judge, working. My clients used to go mad with me, especially mothers. They said, I thought you were acting for me, and you want me to allow that man to see the child. That man has never done anything wrong to the child. It's between you two.
So you think, what about the children?
And now I've set up what is called Glamorgan House in Swansea, a Children's Development Centre. And now tomorrow I've got 5 supervised contact where the fathers have to be supervised, 4 fathers and 1 mother, and about 6 supported contacts. So there are 11 families coming in tomorrow to see their parents, and that gives me great thrill that we're building up this relationship.
So that those children don't lose the contact with their other parents.
Parents refusing that child can't see unless somebody's there.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, that's a very fantastic, and it's called the Glamorgan
House Family Development Centre.
Fantastic. So, what about dislikes? You've told us your passions about children. What about what you really dislike?
I dislike, there's a terminology we have in Wales, kipper friends, two-faced friends. I really dislike that. You have super serious, superficial friends. They believe it's portraying that in the best of pals, but they are two-faced. And I really dislike that.
Totally.
Yeah.
I'm with you on that particular one.
Yeah.
When you think of who you admire most, dead or alive, can you tell me who you admire most, dead or alive, and why? Why?
I admire my late head of chambers, Tom Glanville-Jones, who was a very, very staunch nationalist Welshman, but when it came to professionalism was way above anything else. He may dislike you, but he will never let you down because he believed in professionalism. And he believed in that you should never have green eye. And his message was always, if one door shuts, another one will open. So don't have the green eye. And there were days when you sit there and you have no briefs, and you wonder what will happen next.
What's going to pay the next rent?
Absolutely.
Or whatever, We always have a final question. There's always this final question, and it's like this: if you could rule the world for a day, what would you change or do?
If only.
Well, you can rule the world for a day.
I will ensure that all war weapons are destroyed, and any monies which have been allocated to achieve that be distributed to help the starving children and mothers across the world.
Right. So weapons of war you're talking about, or weapons whatsoever?
Weapons of war.
Yeah.
Yes.
All destroyed.
Yes.
I hope you get your wishes
Yes.
to rule the world for a day.
Yes.
Ray Singh, thank you very much.
Thank you very much for having me here. Yes.